All right. This is Kerry Stellar and my co-host and coach, John Beneduce. John, say hi.
Howdy. Usually we're in the Manimal zone, but it's good to be in the Stellar verse today.
And we are
excited to have Pat Miletich in the studio. It's nice.
Yes, it's great. Pat, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on. Well, I mean, thank you for everything you've done for outside of the MMA community for people as a whole, to give people a different perspective on, life and things that go on with your podcast. And, you're very open about free speech and who you are as a patriot. And, you went through a lot of stuff, and I very recently with the Capitol and on January 6th, and I've seen not one person has even reached out, it looks like, to get a quote or a word from you as a person to find out what happened and shared over and over.
Well, look, no matter what, when you get called a racist, that's one step above being called a pedophile, right? That's just the way it is. So to me, what's important for people to understand is, kind of a little bit of history behind, Mike Jackson, who wrote the article and said I was in support of domestic terrorism and white supremacy and all this other garbage. He and I had argued a couple times and we were friends. But when all of this stuff started and we started seeing the riots all over the nation, burning of cities and everything else, I had an issue with that. I had an issue with it, and Mike seemed to change as a person. Mike started to seem just very, very negative toward anyone outside of his community, so to speak. And I didn't know him like that. He asked me to corner him against CM Punk. He and I, had talked a lot over the years, gotten to know each other very well, and he just seemed like something was going on. Didn't make sense to me, and I was like, this isn't Mike Jackson. Is somebody paying you to be like this? I don't get it, right? Whether they are or whether they aren't, it's not important.
There's just a big push too to follow a certain line, which is upsetting.
Well, look, and here's the thing, and I'll kind of bring this around full circle. So the realization that I came to, when we went out to the Cap, I had a friend call me and say, hey, we're going to go to the Capitol. It's going to be a historic deal no matter what, right? And I host a podcast, as you know, The Conspiracy Farm, and my co-host, who's a black gentleman, we've been great friends for many, many, many years. Love him like a brother, and he has never believed that Donald Trump was a white hat at all. We just talk about we talk about on the right and the left, right? The criminal activity that we see in federal politics and even state politics. So we're equal opportunity. We'll kick the shit out of any politician or any organization that is corrupt, right? That's just the way we've always been. So it's tough to talk to people that are fully sold on the right or fully sold on the left and believe it, right? It's just you can't get through to them most of the time. But anyway, in watching those riots all over during the summer, destruction of cities, the takeover of Seattle, all the craziness.
I live in New York City, so it's been pretty crazy here too.
Right. So that causes anger from the other side, right? And then, after talking to people around the country, slowly come to the realization and understanding people on the ground in Wisconsin that were there that live there, that have businesses, other places around the country, Fargo, North Dakota, I have friends up there. They said during the day, Black Lives Matter protests are perfectly peaceful. And then all of a sudden buses come with people from out of town. And then all of a sudden things start to get violent at night, right? So basically we were told that, fast forward to the Trump gathering in DC on the 6th, we were told that Antifa was going to be there. We were told that they were going to dress like Trump, supporters. So, and I witnessed several of those guys dressed in all black, face masks, hoods up, and backpacks with baseball bats hanging out of them. And they were literally walking right through the center of 1 million Trump supporters, right? And the only thing that, and I, I drew the conclusion, I may be wrong, but I can tell you that I wouldn't wear a Trump shirt walking through 500 or 1,000 Antifa members,
No.
right? You would definitely get attacked. You would
Yeah.
definitely get attacked. Well, it almost seemed to me that these guys were trying to draw attacks to show, that Trump supporters are violent. But everybody was going, "Hey, where's the baseball game at, guys? What's going on?" And this and that. And a couple of my friends and I talked, and we said, we should have at least taken the baseball bats from them, because somebody's going to get hurt later on with those bats. But we didn't. They didn't get accosted. Nothing happened. So anyway, when we got to the Capitol, we were in the front of the pack, really, and because we were at the back of the pack at the Trump speech.
Mm-hmm.
So we took off way early. We got there. We got to the barricades. We were off to the left center of the Capitol there, looking at the front lawn. Now on the backside, they had barricades as well up top, and the crowd gathered all the way around that building. And then all of a sudden, on our side, it was quite a while we were standing there. That to our right, directly in front of the walkway that goes up to the Capitol, the police opened the barriers and waved everybody up.
Yep.
That's what I
And they
heard
did
too.
that. And they did it on the other side too, because I saw the footage of it, right?
They did.
Yeah.
We
Well,
also
they did it. They're all connected by radios, and they said,
Yeah.
boom, yep, let them through. So as the crowd is pouring up the hill, most people aren't running, they're just walking. All the police officers, that line of police officers across the front of the lawn, sprint up the hill towards the Capitol. And then in from the left slide, riot-clad men, right? Riot gear-clad men. Probably, I don't know, 30 or 40, maybe more. Anyway, they form a semicircle out in front, and we can barely see what's going on. We're so far away down the hills. And right when they opened the barricades, we all looked at each other and said, nope, there's something up with this. Something smells.
Yeah.
Something is not right. So when the riot-clad gear, I'm assuming Capitol Police, slide into position, you got to remember the crowd is peacefully walking up the hill, and all of a sudden they start getting hit with stun grenades, tear gas, rubber bullets, and OC spray. And it obviously enrages the crowd because they got ambushed, right? And so anyway, we're listening to the explosions. You can see the clouds of green gas coming up, the tear gas and everything else. And the crowd's roaring now. And so they incited them. But then, there's also tons of footage of people pulling Antifa members away from the Capitol windows, right? And
Yelling at the cops,
pictures of
yelling
Antifa
at
members.
up.
What's that?
They were yelling at the cops and telling them to get back up, and they weren't.
Yeah,
Right.
So backup, that's true. There's a lot of that you can hear. And then also,
Yeah.
a lot of these guys look like agitators to me.
Right. So there definitely were Antifa in the crowd. And here's the thing that I wanted to come around full circle to is, it's very obvious to me that the Black Lives Matter movement and the Trump movement have both at their events been infiltrated by bad actors who are being paid to foment literally a civil war between sides.
Yes.
I mean, it's very apparent. We know that the government's involved in it. We know that there's other actors in it, and there could be Chinese money involved in it as well. So as far as, me and my broadcasting career and getting accused of being in support of domestic terrorism and some other things, I've taken pictures with, I don't know, tens of thousands of people over the years, and I've never turned anybody down for a picture. And I certainly don't do background checks on people when I take pictures with them. So I was taking pictures all over Washington, D.C. with different people who were recognizing me. And one of those pictures, one of the guys was doing an OK sign with his hand, which I guess now is supposedly some sort of white supremacy sign.
White supremacy sign. I don't know where the hell that came out of.
I can't.
This.
Right. So
okay.
So basically,
now
I don't even see that. And then he got that from the right wing death squad or whatever it is.
I don't know.
With the letters up there. I didn't notice he had letters on his hat. And even if I did notice letters, I wouldn't have known what it fucking meant, because nobody's walking around Iowa with those hats on, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, LFA took a bunch of heat for it, and they called me up and said, we want to create some distance right now and this and that, which, hey, do what you got to do. I understand it's about survival of your business, whatever. You don't want to be the target for a bunch of stuff. And so, look, I still love those guys. They're great people. They really are, and they've supported me through some tough times in my life. And so I don't have any ill will at all. I've even forgiven Mike Jackson, who wrote that slanderous article that got spread to other media locations. I have to forgive him. Otherwise, why am I going to stay angry and hurt myself? Right?
Yeah.
I can't do that. So I'm just, to me, I'm sad that a lot of Americans will continue to be divided by something that is not real.
See, this is what really upsets me.
It's not real.
Is that
This is being
you're
created.
being this what really upsets me is you're being judged and there's actions taken against you with really, first of all, it's not like you had a hearing for this. Second, you didn't do anything illegal, but you're being punished for what? Representing a political party that somehow, I don't know when this happened, that it all became white supremacists, even though the crowd was not, the crowd was mixed race. There was two guys
Yeah.
from New York City that worked for the MTA that got fired for being there. They didn't break it for being there, right? And they were both Spanish. I was like, how do you call them white supremacists? And they're like, well, they're Spanish white supremacists. I was like, that doesn't make any fucking sense. Out of control with this sport.
Well, that's the thing. That's the thing that right now we've got. There is some serious mental illness in this nation right now, right?
Big time.
People are incapable of looking at things objectively. They can't do it. They're incapable of it. They think with only emotions. And you cannot have a conversation with somebody who thinks with their emotions. They've been programmed to do that, though. Here's the thing. Good friend of mine who was with me there is an expert in hypnosis. And I said, what I've seen with the media and how it controls the citizens, the masses,
Yeah.
it reminds me of a comedian who's a hypnotist who hypnotized, like 30 people and brought them on stage and then had them doing crazy stuff. A Hell's Angel giving birth to a baby, all kinds of crazy stuff that you'd never do if you weren't hypnotized, right? So then fast forward to, and then he explains it in detail and says, what most people don't understand is that, Pat, you have authority. So when you say something, a lot of people will assume it's true without doing their own research, right? So you have to at least give them the research, which the media won't allow you to do that. And Google and a bunch of other places are trying to hide the truth if you tried to do the research to begin with.
Checkers.
So
My opinion isn't in dispute.
Yeah. So when most citizens look at a broadcaster on, the local news or even especially national news, and they're saying, the biggest threat to this nation is white nationalist terrorists. Well, actually, they're really not. They just believe in the Constitution and don't want you to trample all over their lives and ruin the nation. Okay. They're continually doing things to antagonize, to poke the bear, to try to get people to lash out so that then they can say, see, and put it on the news, right?
Yeah.
That's all they do. That's all they do. While on the other side, politicians on the left are saying, if you see any of these conservative politicians at restaurants or out in public or at a gas station, get in their face.
Make them uncomfortable. Yep.
And so
how crazy is it you want to know that Biden want to know who in the military is conservative or liberal? It's like, well, you really, what does that have to do with my job?
Right.
It's becoming a very slippery slope here, which I don't like.
It is.
Well,
It is.
that-
Yeah. So
now, if I don't like, where are you going to stop? Are you going to tell me what I'm supposed to like? Which is kind of where it's going.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. No, they're staring at that way.
Which is terrible, and I'll always fight against that. That's why I was excited to give you a place to say something, even though I
appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Still.
Well, and that's the thing so there's going to be a lot of people that hear this and are going to go, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. There's no way. There's no way. I want people to try your best to remove your emotions from something, from this subject matter, and think objectively. What does the government and especially the CEOs of big tech, big pharma, what do they have to gain by not being discovered as criminals? What do they, all of these things, the control of the masses is what they want. And what I try to tell people also is you've got to do the history, for those in Antifa and those that are being violent and those that are, serving a purpose for the left. Throughout history, the Bolshevik Revolution, the communist takeover of China, Nazi Germany, the useful idiots who were used to get the Marxists into power. Once that's attained, the useful idiots are disposed of every single time. Meaning, when I say disposed of, I mean lined up on walls and shot. That's the way it's done.
Yeah.
These are not kind people that we're dealing with here.
And in a small way, you're already seeing this. BLM, all up in
and canceled, killed in different ways. Right now, not physically, but all over social media. Mine got nuked, as I call it. And then I just got really annoyed and pulled the rest down, because if you're going to start silencing us, the last thing I'm going to do is continue to sign in and, give you any kind of pay, because you every time you sign in, it is a little bit, it's money. And I feel like I'm a part of the problem. Now, mind you, what Pat was saying before is you have, they're trying to impeach an ex-president for supposedly inciting violence. Now, mind you, you had a sitting senators and congressmen and women all summer saying worse, going, they shouldn't stop. They should keep going. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Maxine Waters. I could go down the list of these people that had that they were like violence.
Right.
Yeah, they want to stir the pot up, and then when it happens the other way, even though I don't really think anything at the Capitol was the way it is, they say. I don't think it was Trump's supporters. Listen, first of all, Kerry, QAnon is not a thing, right? Why was that guy wearing it's either Q or Anons, right? Yeah. So if a guy says he's coming from QAnon, that doesn't make any sense.
It's a media made up. The news.
Media made up thing. To get a hold of that.
To go, oh look, there's this group of people that we can, now label. So it's a group of people. It's not a thing or a concept anymore, or an idea or a theory. Now it's a group of people that they can label domestic terrorists. And I'm sorry, but to me, people that are burning down cities and looting and rioting are domestic terrorists. But people that have a problem with pedophilia and human trafficking, those are just doing God's work. I mean, that's sorry.
That's it's out of control. You see, Kerry, I don't know if you saw in New York, they just found a cop who was involved in this sex trafficking ring.
Well, there's people in many, many positions of power who are, before Trump even got into office, before he was elected, we were talking about the Owan brothers, the Pakistani IT experts that were hired by Debbie Wasserman Schultz to handle all the IT stuff for the DNC. Well, they handed out BlackBerries to everybody. And then they had data collection points, locations around DC to suck up all the information off of their BlackBerries, and then basically blackmail all the politicians. Mm-hmm. One of them gets busted for bank fraud, and they suddenly disappear. They're gone. They're out of the country, and they disappear. This sort of stuff. What happened to the Harvard scientists that ran the Harvard lab that went over to run the Wuhan lab, and the two Chinese nationalist scientists that were arrested for what they say, financial espionage, basically. People don't understand, why the Iranian, when the media freaked out and vilified Trump for hitting Soleimani, the Iranian general.
Which I don't understand why they would be upset about.
This is why he got killed, because he's an asymmetrical warfare expert. And Iranian guards went over, he sent a bunch of them over to Wuhan to get infected on purpose, supposedly, and then this is an intel friend of mine, and then flew them all over the world to spread it quicker, which I don't doubt this guy's words, because he's a very, very high up guy that owns a very large intelligence corporation. So, this is a guy that has the technology on borders around the world, that when you cross that border, the information off your phone gets sucked up into it, and they know who you are. And he goes, people walking into the United States, some of them don't have shoes, but they have cell phones. So we know who they are and when they got here and everything about them. So this guy knows what he's talking about. So that's what Soleimani got hit for. So anyway, there's just so many moving parts to this.
Why are people upset that he got hit? Like, there's regular Americans like some of my friends are like, oh, like it's messed up that they killed that guy. I was like, why would you be upset to kill?
We're literally, people don't realize we've been at war for at least a couple of years with China, Iran, and Russia, and they don't see bombs going off. You know, asymmetrical warfare is financial. It's a psyop, you know, messing with the citizens of a nation, sending in all kinds of, you know, they just basically try to turn you upside down. They make right wrong and wrong right. That's what Marxists do. You know, look at them trying to normalize pedophilia, right?
I was just gonna say, people are mad
California.
at Trump because he said things that they didn't like. Yet, mind you, the normalcy of pedophilia and it's actually rampant. It's the biggest example I have is Disney. You have all these little girls that start out with Disney, and they're little girls, and they look like they're, you know, pretty innocent, and then they put them in a magazine and they turn them into women. And these are little girls. Some of these are kids, like 12, 14-year-old.
Yeah.
These are kids. And they over sexualize them. And then they want to know why little girls want to go shop in Justice and want to dress a certain way. And they're normalizing the relationship of an adult and a child. And there's nothing okay about it. The comedy that these famous people produce. Tom Hanks has a thing with pedophilic comedy. Sarah
About him, Kerry.
Wilson,
I'm way off the deep end on
The
that.
Rock. These people are disgusting. I mean, there's nothing.
You're
funny.
right about
Well, look, here's the thing. Here's the thing is, I can't prove anything about those guys, but we can prove a lot of other stuff. There's a lot of other people that have been convicted of this stuff, that have done it, who are associates, whatever. You know, ultimately, you know, it is rampant. It is definitely rampant. And, you know, they have a lot to hide. And the best way to hide crimes, especially crimes of treason and crimes against humanity, well, is another war, right? Why not create a civil war? It's a great distraction. And I said this for years. I said, they are going to work hard to either create a civil war or a global war to hide their crimes. They are willing to do
maybe
that.
both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, could be both.
Spain during World War II.
Yeah, so they're literally handing us over to China right now, and you can see it happening. You know, you know, it's
Terrifying.
Well, it is. And here's the thing, though. And I don't know if I said this to you in a phone call a few days ago, but an American general put it this way. He said, there have been through history 4 groups who have been the most powerful in the world. First, it was the conquerors. Then it was the religious leaders. Then it was presidents, leaders of nations. And now it's the CEOs and big tech and big pharma. And they undoubtedly are. How the hell does Bill Gates have the power to say you're going to get a vaccine? He's a computer guy. How the hell does Bill Gates have the power to spray aluminum particles into our sky to block out the sun? Does anybody understand that Bill Gates' father started Planned Parenthood? They are eugenicists. They want the rest of the world dead. They want the world to themselves. They're basically Hitlers in suits, right? That's what they are. So, you know, I said, why would you spray aluminum particles into the air besides, well, wanting to poison people, but to block out the sun? Well, it's pretty easy. When you block out the sun, there's less food.
Yeah.
Lower temperatures.
Is the largest landowner.
Yes,
They're
yes,
going to
of
push
course.
this fucking plant agenda.
Right.
Plant-based food. You already see it happening with Coca-Cola.
With hormones in it. Don't get me started on that.
I mean, look, I see the agenda shaping up, especially with the food. You're not even going to know what you eat. First, they don't want you to even know what gender you are. Let's make you so fucking.
Our health secretary.
Right.
Oh, look at the Secretary of Health. You know I can't take that one.
I can't either.
Pat, you're a professional athlete, right? And you're a coach for 40 years,
yeah.
right? And you're gonna have that tranny tell you about health.
Right. Yeah.
Well, who couldn't accept who they are mentally? And now we're supposed to accept this, but they're supposed to tell us, and they're the picture of health. And on so many levels, they're not. I have a cousin that is, so I can tell you it is a mental illness, just like bipolar and anything else, and should be treated as such. And to parade that around on the TV right now is just an embarrassment.
Well, to me, look, here's the thing. I can't, if I've got flat feet or scoliosis, I can't get into the Marines or the Army, you know, with flat feet. So, you know, why would you allow a group of people with over 40% suicide rate into the military and military service, the stresses that that is going to put on somebody.
Absolutely.
You don't, because you're risking a lot of other lives. So it proves that these people literally don't care about anyone's lives.
They
They
don't.
only care about turning society upside down and destroying what, well, moral society would normally be.
I mean, listen, if someone wants to, you know, cut their dick off, that's up to them. Me personally, first, I don't want to pay for it with my taxes through like Medicaid. And second, is that person the best one to talk about health is obviously an issue there. Taking care of their own body, right? They obviously had a little bit of a dissect there. Health.
A little too much processed food and lowered their testosterone, and now they can't figure out.
Absolutely.
And you know, here's the thing: processed food destroys the gut biome. Gut biome gives off chemicals. Well, it is your second brain. Your gut is your second brain. Anybody that knows health knows that. The chemicals that your stomach, your digestive system gives off controls your thinking. So when you've got bad gut biome, it later leads to mental illness. And that's, you know, processed foods and a lot of other things in our environment that are causing people to be sick. And you know, so that's it's important. It's most, God, 95, 96 or higher percent of society don't even understand what gut biome exists, right?
It's true. You have trillions of these microorganisms living inside you.
Right.
That affect a lot of things. Does that affect, you know, when you have a gut feeling? You probably have all these gut microbiomes that are sensitive to your environment also.
Right.
Now, those things that gut microbiome might have alerted you to, now that you fucking killed them, now things that normally would signal danger to you
don't.
Right. Yeah,
like,
people don't
take my rights away.
Right. People can't see under the surface. They only see the buildings on fire. They only see the buildings on fire and the violence, right? They don't even care to research what might be causing that, right? Who could be behind that? Who stands to gain from it? Why is this happening? Oh, is it because one guy, one gentleman had cops kneeling on him and all of a sudden every city's on fire? No. This is a well-oiled machine between, you know, the organized groups that send people out, that pay people to do the violence. They've got the film crews on hand to film it, put it on the news.
And film behind the cops already.
Right.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing, though. Here's the thing and we've all fallen for it.
Yep. On
both sides, we've all fallen for it. And I have to admit my fault in that, because initially when I saw the images and of the fires and the riots and the attacking innocent people, you know, I was pissed off. I was ready to get up and go, you know, kick some ass. But then you have to sit back and go, wait a minute. Okay, remember, hypnosis is basically cause an emotion and then make a suggestion. That's how hypnotists work, right? Cause an emotion and then make a suggestion. So the news shows you at the beginning of all of this, a bat in a bowl of soup, Chinese people falling over on their faces in Beijing and Wuhan. And then they show body bags. And then they say, deadly virus has now arrived on US shores. And everybody freaks out and believes the media and closes their businesses and puts masks on and freaks out.
Masks now, triple, just fucking wrap me up.
Well, that's where at the Bilderberg meetings where they were all laughing, drinking dirty martinis, going, and then at this phase, we're going to tell them to wear 2 and 3 masks. And then we're going to tell them to
do it because they're stupid.
Exactly. And people don't even realize it.
Well, because most people are just comfortable living, and that, you know, I did an interview with Tim Kerry back in March when this all first started. And I said, what's your big concern right now? And he said his big concern was not the virus, it was people's willingness to give up their rights.
Yeah. And they have no clue how bad this gets. And the funny thing is, the English fighter, I put it on my Instagram today, Darren Till. So, and even Bisping Darren Till and Bisping started slam. I didn't even have a Twitter anymore because I got locked out of my blue check account. And then, so anyway, Till and Bisping both started slamming me, going, you know, you're a lunatic. What are you talking about? Put on your tinfoil hat, buddy. You know, all this other stuff.
Oh, they
Right?
love to make fun of us from over there. They love that.
Yeah. So now Darren Till posts a video on his Twitter, losing it, freaking out on a cop who's writing him up for not having a mask on. Right. And I said in the beginning of all of this, Darren Till called me the nut job. And now he's freaking out because he's going to get a ticket for not wearing a mask. And now maybe he's realizing that this whole thing, unless people start standing up, ends with a jackboot on the face of humanity.
Yep.
And we're all being stomped into the ground. And that's where this is headed unless people stand the hell up. Period. End of story.
And
When
then
you show them that their fear-based conditioning works, they step on the gas and they keep going. Now, when I'm telling you, when people start to push back, it can't be a push back to, 50% capacity and wearing masks still. It has to be, no, we're doing what we want. We're free. We're going to do what we want. And if you try and stop us, there's going to be issues.
Yeah. And we all need to do it. And I've been saying that if we all stand together as a whole, and let me tell you, we will see a split between the military and cops. And you're going to see normal people go, we're not enforcing this. I live in Long Island, New York. And our sheriff around all the holidays were like, not giving a now you have all these assholes that are like, let's open back up. We admit there was a mistake. Well, fuck you. You ruined so many businesses. So many
instructor had to close the school. Matt Serra had come on, that's big. That's you. He made in New York City, Pat. Everyone, they essentially, especially if you were in Nassau, like there's different counties. Certain counties tougher than others. Kerry lives in Suffolk with their sheriff said he wouldn't enforce. In other places, a lot more stringent. You couldn't train at all for even still, you're not really supposed to have classes here.
Yeah.
Even still, bust your balls.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. And,
insane.
The guys in New Jersey at Attila's gym.
I saw that those accounts too. It looks like now.
Yeah, we had those guys on the show. Quite a few months back, and I tell you what, Americans cannot leave guys like that out to hang. They've got to support them. They have got to get behind them. They have got to open their businesses. They have got to push back. And in Italy, all the restaurants opened back up against orders, and the cops were going into restaurants, and everybody in the restaurants were running the cops back out, going, nuh-uh. And then the government realized it wasn't working anymore and lifted the sanctions. Right.
So government resigned in Italy. Actually, they were like, "We're fucking."
Yeah.
The Renzi party, imagine if the Democrat Party just resigned. Oh,
well, yeah, they're at the helm now. They don't want to do that.
From your lips to God's ears. But Pat, you have a product, and I've been waiting I was going to bring it up when you were bringing up the stuff about your product, everything. But now's a good time, as good a time as any, to segue into your health and this amazing product that you have that is groundbreaking. And I would love to hear about it.
Yeah, and some is on the way to you right now. I believe they've got it in the mail here pretty soon. Anyway, I saw the email come across, so they've got that. But about 7 months ago, I had a friend contact me who I've known for about 20 years, and he started telling me about this product. He goes, "Look, I know you're really busy, but I really think you should hear this." And I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll listen to you." And I've had a million companies come at me with different products, and I got pretty good at reading labels and understanding what I wanted and what I didn't. But there was a product, I'll tell you this, that I was on at the beginning of my kickboxing career. So I was a kid that grew up in a crummy house. The basement leaked every time it rained. There was black mold everywhere. And my bedroom was in the basement of this house. And so I always had respiratory issues, and I couldn't figure out why. In wrestling and football, I couldn't breathe very well. I felt like I was breathing through a straw all the time. And my wrestling coach in high school asked me, he goes, "Miletich, do you smoke cigarettes or something?" And I'm like, "No, coach, I just can't, I don't know why I can't breathe." And so anyway, at the beginning of my kickboxing career, luckily, because I always had to train twice as hard as everybody else just to be in remotely decent shape. And a friend of mine who's a former Mr. Olympia gave me this product that increased oxygen in the cellular level by 20%. And that product, that one product, is what literally gave me the ability to train hard enough and to get in good enough shape and do things physically that I never thought I could do, with winning a world title. That one product put me over the top to win a world title. And it also was in most of the fighters that I coached. It was about 95 kids we put on TV, and a bunch of world champions. All those guys were on it, but I made everybody swear, don't you ever, ever tell anybody what this product is, because that's our edge. You know, we train very hard, but this is our edge. So anyway, that was 20% more oxygen, and it made me a world champ. But this product called Black Oxygen Organics is 45% more oxygen at a cellular level. So it's nano.
You had.
What's that?
So you improved on your previous product.
By 25% more oxygen at a cellular level, yeah. And on top of that, it's nano in size, so it can travel in and out of the cell. So on its way in, it delivers oxygen and nutrients, activates the mitochondria, which is the furnace of the cell, creating energy, not like caffeine, just steady, constant energy. I don't get tired during the day. I'm not the 1 o'clock nap guy anymore that dozes off at my desk, right? I just don't get that. But on the way out, it's got 60 times its carrying weight to remove heavy metals, toxins, and even viruses from the cells. I had a doctor confront me in front of some people, like, because he's a doctor, he thought he'd flex on me, and he goes, "You can't claim that." He goes, "You're full of shit." And I said, "What am I full of shit on?" He goes, "Removing viruses from the cells." I go, "That's actually backed by research. You can go read it yourself if you'd like." And I got right back in his face and said, "It's absolutely proven in research." So what happens is, say for an athlete, when your muscles run out of oxygen, they start to burn sugar for energy. The byproduct of burnt sugar in your muscles is lactic acid, fatigue, right? Soreness, stiffness, everything else that goes with that, injuries. So it removes the inflammation as well out of your body, including your respiratory system, your arteries, your veins, your muscles, your joints, everything. So the inflammation is gone. While it's cleaning out the cells, you get a lot of mental clarity because of that, of course. It fixes your gut biome. It's a probiotic in itself. It resets the hormonal system. It literally fixes what's wrong with you because it puts the nutrients into your body that you're supposed to have. So most people out there think I'm going to go pick up some more minerals and vitamins at the store. Well, most of those are inorganic to begin with, so you don't absorb any of it. But this is for people to understand. It's hilarious because people go, "It's what?" But the gentleman that figured this out should literally win a Nobel Prize for having figured out how to do this. He's a mud expert, has been for 30 years.
It's what, like volcanic minerals? Is that what?
Nope. So vulvic and some fulvic comes from inorganic sources like volcanic rock and ash, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm familiar with.
That's really not going to move the needle that much. That's like Silajet and other products like that. Well, this is so high in content. It's 2,000 different types of plants that have decomposed for 60,000 years. It's literally bog mud. And what he does is he uses a CO2 pressurized process, no chemicals, because other fulvic products, they have to use a harsh chemical process to remove the fulvic material from the source, right? That's not how he does it with this. He didn't want that. So it's a pressurized process, and then he freeze dries it, and it's a powder. You put literally a measuring half teaspoon in your coffee or water first thing in the morning, and then once early afternoon. And all of a sudden, crazy stuff starts happening. People with diabetes, people with, and I can't say it treats, cures, or prevents anything. But what I can tell you is I'll give you just 3 examples of healing, and then I'll give you 1 example of endurance. My buddy, who's a pastor 30 miles north of me, laying in hospice, dying of hepatitis C. He saved a guy's life one time, but the guy bled all over him, gave him hep C. He's laying in hospice, liver failure, organ failure. And I got him a bag of it, and I said, "Just try it, please." And he's like, "Pat, yeah, I know where I'm going. I've been a good man. I've done my best in life." And I go, "Rob, you got to do this, please, for your wife, for your kids. Just do it." So he started taking it. 3 days later, he calls me, and he's laughing. And he says, "My hospice nurse is freaking out." And I go, "What? Why?" And he goes, "Okay, my blood pressure used to be 175/62 for years. 3 days later, after starting this product, it's 116/72.
Wow.
And my nurse is freaking out. Then 2 months later, he posts a picture.
For a regular 20-year-old.
It removed the inflammation out of his body, right? So 2 months later, he posts a picture. He's standing in the woods. He says, kicked out of hospice, back working again, right? He got kicked out of hospice. This is no bullshit, okay? My brother on July 4th came to my house. He had been very sick, and he's 6'5" at the time, 161 pounds. He's dying.
Wow.
Yellow as you can imagine, jaundice. And I said, yeah, he's a goner. I got him on black oxygen that day. Then he finally got blood tests done, and he had blastoid mantle cell lymphoma, which is one of the most aggressive forms of blood cancer you can have. He was a goner. He got started on that, some other natural stuff, had no side effects of chemo whatsoever. And the University of Iowa hospital doctors, after 2 months, couldn't find any cancer in his body. He's already in remission, right? Literally 2 months later. And then a friend of mine with rheumatoid arthritis, the markers for rheumatoid arthritis at the high end is 122 and above. He was in the 190 range. He'd had 5 joint replacements. His doctors told him he's the worst case of rheumatoid arthritis they'd ever seen. 2.5 months later, he's rheumatoid arthritis free. And that's medical test.
That's amazing.
And his pain's gone. And then some of my buddies who are actually out in Utah to run a 50 miler at Moab in Utah, they do 100 milers and they do Leadville and all that stuff. They're incredible runners, and they're in their mid 50s, been running for decades. And these guys have dropped 1 minute to 2 minutes off their per mile time, and their heart rate's 30 beats less per minute. So that should tell you what this product's doing. I can't say again that it treats, cures, or prevents any diseases or sickness. I can just tell you that when you put the right stuff in your body that's truly organic and this powerful, some healing and some endurance changes happen. And the thing is we've grown food, mass-produced food in the same soil for so long that the soil that we grow our food in is so void of minerals that you're just eating stuff that fills you up. It doesn't give you the nutrients you need anymore.
It's not nutrient dense and hard to absorb. A lot of things are hard to absorb.
Sure. So I tell people, look, this stuff's 100% money back guarantee. If you don't get results out of it, send the package back in and tell them you want your money back.
I'm excited to try it. I need all the help I could get. It's right next to them. So shit.
Well,
Kerry,
make sure you
the old guys out there.
Yeah, so make sure you text me your address. I'll get some products sent to you as well.
Well, I'm going to steal some of Kerry's, but yeah, I'll text you. We'll get.
Don't steal hers. She's going to need it.
Don't steal Kerry's. That's right. We've been
people can go to. But if you guys will tag the video also with the website,
For sure.
Yeah.
It's blackoxygenorganics.com/PJ Miletich, as in Patrick J. PJ Miletich. So people can go on there. I use the powder because it's very versatile.
I'm trying to remember your title fight when you won the UFC title. That was the first 170-pound title, right?
Yes. And that was the most boring fight in history.
Was it? I'm trying to remember.
Mikey Burnett in Brazil.
Mike Burnett. That's right. I'm trying to remember.
Terrible fight. They should have made us fight again with just jock straps on so we couldn't grab each other's shorts.
Oh yes. Now I remember. Oh my God.
Yeah. That was the fight that got short grabbing banned in the UFC.
That's right. All right, listen, you got a lot of footnotes in history there.
Yeah.
No, Pat, I tell you what, as a fight fan, I remember you being one of the first fighters to have a relatively well-rounded game. Like you had some wins by submission, you had great stand-up. I always remember that.
Well, the thing was, what I learned early on in observing, it was like people were coming with their style of fighting, right? And I looked at that and went, it's like they've invested so many years in one art that it literally is part of their fiber, of their being.
Yeah.
And they're not humble enough to admit that their style doesn't contain everything needed to win a fight, right? So that was something that and also I think it was a blessing that I had boxed some when I was younger, and I wasn't the best wrestler in the world. I
You
could
got
wrestle.
a little-
I'd beaten some very good guys. I grew up wrestling in Iowa, but look, even when I was the UFC champion for 4 years, almost 4 years, I was like the 20th toughest guy in a town in Iowa that's only 35,000 people. I mean, literally. I mean, this town had back then, especially, some really, really scary individuals
Got
who
it.
could
Yeah,
wrestle. They
especially
could
wrestling background. Yeah.
boxing also. Yeah, like, I can name these guys. The Pansloff brothers, Doug, friggin', on down the line. These guys scared me to death. Even when I was a UFC champ, I was like, I would never get in a bar fight with these guys ever. So I grew up in that atmosphere of a town that was not only in a state where wrestling was king, but where we were one of the top teams in the state of Iowa.
And I always remember you having a tough. You're a Croatian, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. I remember that being like a tough, just like tough, almost like an old school version of a Stipe Miletich. If that makes sense.
Well, and that's the thing is, if you look at the guys that win world titles, you have to have an immigrant mentality many times, right? You've got to have that work ethic, that immigrant mentality. Start at the bottom and work your way up. And I had no problem bagging groceries as my first job. I had no problem digging ditches as a job or any of that stuff that I did. I'm not ashamed of that at all. I remember pouring concrete every day for 4 years and then going to training and then bartending all night till two in the morning or bouncing at a club and then getting up and doing it all over again for 4 years until I won a title. And then I could actually quit one job and then, whittle it down to
That's right.
That's the
what
thing
the hell were you even getting paid back then?
Right.
It's bad now. Fucking then, forget it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were fighting in like Shreveport, Louisiana and shit.
I remember one time after UFC Louisiana, I think I got paid like $40,000 for that fight. And I asked for half of it in cash and half in check. And I had my fanny pouch on at the time, which was cool to have at the time. And I had all that. I had 20,000 cash in that and the check. And I went in to do my urine test after the fight, right? And I had already had a couple of beers after my fight, and I went in and did the urine test. So when I walked out of that office, I left my fanny pouch in there, and then I realized it like 10 minutes later, and I ran back in there, and the doctor's in there. And I go, hey, my fanny pouch was right there. Where is it? And he goes, I don't know what you're talking about. And I go, oh no, no, you're not doing this, buddy. You're going to give me my money. And he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. So my buddy, who was a training partner, who was a police officer, goes, come on, Pat, come on. And he knew what was going to happen. It's, he's been in law enforcement for a long time. So he goes, we're just going to act like we're leaving. And let's go over here and we'll just kind of keep an eye on what he does. So all of a sudden the guy comes out of the office, walks down to the bathroom, goes in the bathroom, and then comes back out of the bathroom. My buddy Mark, the cop, goes down and comes back with my fanny pouch with all the money and the check in it. The guy had thrown it in the garbage can of the bathroom. Right. So then I really wanted to go kill the guy, but Mark's like, no, you got your money. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, throw my shit out. Now we're gonna fight.
He was trying to hide it there for later. In case
Yeah. Basically.
Trying to hide it in the bathroom. This way, if you try to shake him down,
he doesn't have anything on.
Because you don't have it on him.
Right.
See, being from the hood gets you out here.
There's been a lot of funny stories over the years, man. A lot of interesting stories.
Yeah. Oh man. I mean, the old school UFC was like the Wild West. Forget it.
It was. Yeah. It really was. It was.
It took you 40 grand. Fuck. Shit.
Well, we were doing it because we loved it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel you. The love of the game is really the only reason to do it.
Yeah. I mean, we weren't doing it to get. You could spot the guys that were doing it to get dates in bars or to get famous.
You know what I used to love that I think came too soon? IFL. I guess PFL is kind of like
yeah.
reboot, but I used to love IFL's concept. How like each place had a team, and then what you call it, and then they paid the fighters, right, like a stipend.
Oh yeah, the fighters.
The NFL tries to do that. That was just too ahead of its time. But I like the idea of trying to, because I remember they lost like 28 mil. I remember they lost a lot of money quick.
Well, the thing was that during the IFL as a coach, I was making a ton of money because as a coach, you got paid a show amount. Then you got paid every win by a fighter. You got bonuses for knockouts and submissions.
Really,
and
you got bonuses for that.
Yeah, and then a win bonus for the team win. So I was on top of a salary. So I was making bank. I was getting paid really well.
Trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
They did the right thing. They were trying, like, I liked what IFL was doing because they were really
What's that?
I remember IFL, and I remember when all of IFL, and then it was World Series of Fighting tried, and then now PFL. Hopefully they.
But I liked the team concept because if you think about other major sports, the team concept and your local draw sells. Like think about like the New York Giants.
Right. Yeah.
You don't have to be a fan of any particular football player to be a Giants fan.
Mm-hmm.
So for an MMA fighter to get paid $8 million a year, he might need a team. I don't know.
Right.
I thought IFL was trying to do the right. How do I get an MMA fighter other than Conor McGregor paid $5 million every fight? That's what he should make. The top guy. The pay is, I always lobby for MMA fighter pay being way higher. So.
Yeah, and it comes down to the contracts and the champion clauses, and the Ali Act being implemented in MMA. But there's some very strong lobbyists that are involved in that stuff, and makes it tough. So, boxing, there's a lot of guys that, they've got a million fights, but they're just paid journeymen to go out and just, not get knocked out so they can fight the next weekend somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of those types of guys out there in the sport. So they can't, rightfully say that they deserve massive amounts of money per fight, right?
No, but even at the top level, there is a pay disparity.
Yeah,
Especially
absolutely.
like, let's say you're a main card fighter, you're a ranked fighter.
Right.
There's some compensation there. In relation to what the highest athlete in a comparable sport would make.
Sure. Here's the thing too is, fighters by nature are the most capitalistic individuals for the most part because of the nature of the sport. It's a dog eat dog sport, just like the business world, right? I mean, MMA, especially at the UFC level, is like the Wolf of Wall Street of sports. You think of how many guys' dreams on your way to a world title, how many people's dreams you ruin on the way to doing that. I ruined a lot of guys' dreams in my career, and that's something that dawns on you after you're done. I always wondered why my great uncle, Johnny Miletich, Johnny Myler Miletich, they called him. He was on the 32 Olympic boxing team and was a great pro boxer. He fought Maxie Rosenblum twice for the world title. As an amateur, he knocked Joe Louis down 7 times in 3 rounds. He was a very good fighter. But when we'd go to see him at family reunions and stuff down on the farm, he'd have a huge flower garden and a vegetable garden, and he'd always be out there by himself. You know what I mean? So he lived a life of violence, and as he got older, he just wanted peace. That's all he wanted. And I understand that now. Why?
That's very samurai-esque, very Miyamoto Musashi.
Right? Yeah. And he was it was a big man, had a totally flat nose and huge hands. And I always loved being around him. He didn't live, I think he lived till I was probably maybe 8, 10, something like that. But just being around him, there was something about him that I just loved. I couldn't figure out what it was. And here I am, I end up becoming a fighter. I guess I wanted to emulate him.
That warrior spirit, you just felt it from him.
Something, yeah.
Felt it even as a kid.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think we're almost at the end of our hour, Kerry.
Okay.
I was just going to say the same thing. Pat, I know that you've been, outed on a bunch of social medias because, social media sucks these days and big tech and everything. that as where can everybody find you? Either on a social media platform. I looked for you on Gab. I saw that it might be a faker profile, but where are you these days?
Just on Instagram at PJ Miletich. And then I might have started a Gab a while back. I started a MeWe, and somebody said that might be compromised.
Gab, MeWe sucks.
Okay, so I'll go to Gab. I'll start another account there, and then yeah. So I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a nice talk.
I really loved having you on. I'd love to do one, just go way back MMA fights.
Sure, absolutely.
We can do that.
But definitely
we'll talk about other people's fights though.
Let's do it.
Yeah. Do you know what's really cool? To talk about fights that you weren't in but were involved with.
Yeah.
Sure. Absolutely.
Usually fun too.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Yeah, definitely cornering guys is exciting, and I don't have any damage afterwards. So
right.
Yeah. No matter how hard they get hit, I don't really fucking feel it. Only emotionally.
Right.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
So yeah, loved having you on. You're awesome, old school legend, and I really just want to show support for people having freedom of fucking speech, constitutional rights, and the way they're treating people that have a different opinion of the mainstream. You can't let that shit slide. So
I
can't.
I appreciate it.
And we wanted to show support. I saw what happened, and I saw the same article being shared over and over and over again. And I wanted you to be able to tell it in your own voice, in your own experience, and not have it shared through the lens of a million different people sitting on their couches, easily on their keyboard talking shit. So, we wanted to thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us.
Thank you,
sure
guys.
Instagram didn't take you off, Pat?
What's that?
Are you sure you're still on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram, but I can't do live videos.
Oh.
Miletich.
Miletich.
PJ Miletich. Miletich.
I like that.
Okay. And you can't do live videos. It's so funny that they're so.
Isn't that ridiculous what they do?
I can't do live videos on Periscope. I can't do Periscope live videos. I can't do Facebook videos. I can't do Instagram videos. I can't do any of it because I know it's the people out there, the cancel culture, who are saying you need to cancel this guy's ability to do this stuff. That's all they're doing. So we just do Zoom videos and then I post them.
And then what's your podcast?
The Conspiracy Farm. So they can go to theconspiracyfarm.com.
Awesome.
And we're on Rockfin on that podcast network is what it's called on Rockfin.
Fantastic. Pat, thank you so much for joining us. And we will do an old school fight podcast in the Manimal Zone with John. You will schedule that. And I can't wait to get the product in the mail. Very excited about Black. Can you repeat what it is called?
Yes, blackoxygenorganics.com/Pat Miletich.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you, you guys.
Thank you, Pat.
All right, take care. Have a good night.
You too.